He pranked me with a fake proposal. Now I'm done. The night before my birthday, I stumbled across my boyfriend's Snapchat group chat. Turns out they voted every month on the next way to prank me. Ethan, how about you pretend to break up with Hazel next month? Boring. Let's make Ethan sleep with Chloe. That'll be way more exciting. I'll bet $2,000. How many minutes until Hazel cries when she sees Chloe's fake pregnancy test? I stared at the texts, a cold shiver running down my spine. For 3 years, I'd actually thought all of it was just bad luck. Until tonight. Ethan had lured me to his birthday party. Roses, a diamond ring, a live band. Everything looked perfect. He dropped to one knee and gazed up at me. Will you marry me, Hazel? The moment I nodded, confetti exploded around us. The giant screen behind him lit up with bold letters. Prank successful. Hazel took the bait. Time 45 seconds. His friends fell over themselves laughing, pounding the tables. Ethan stood up and casually tossed the ring to Chloe, his childhood best friend. We've pranked you so many times. How have you not learned your lesson? Someone cheered. Hazel, let's do something even bigger next month. I thought of the profile picture in that chat. The one who'd been betting the most on me for 3 years straight. My own boyfriend. A smile spread across my face. Sure. Let's play a big one. I looked him dead in the eye. Ethan, we're done. The VIP lounge went dead silent for 2 seconds. Then Tyler burst out laughing, slamming his hand on the table. Oh my God, Hazel. You actually learned how to counterprank. Ethan, I guess you lose this round, huh? Ethan laughed too, reaching out to pinch my cheek. I jerked my head back, dodging his touch. His hand froze in midair. His brows furrowed slightly. Are you actually mad? Chloe slipped the ring onto her index finger, raising it to the light to admire it. Nice taste, Ethan. How much did this cheap thing cost? Ethan smiled casually. Like 80. She gasped, playfully kicking Ethan's leg. 80 grand. You have money to spoil your girl, but not to spoil me? Seriously, Ethan? And here I thought I was your favorite girl. Ethan dodged her kick and shoved her head away playfully. Get lost. Chloe laughed, cursing under her breath as she continued to examine the ring. Honestly, it looks pretty good on me. She looked up and caught me staring. Hazel, you don't mind if I play with it for a bit, right? I mean, I used to buy Ethan's underwear for him. You wouldn't mind a silly ring, would you? I held out my hand. Give it back. Chloe blinked, momentarily stunned, then quickly tossed the ring back to Ethan. Fine. Take it. Hazel is so sensitive. Just touching the ring makes her look like I'm trying to steal her man. Ethan caught the ring and frowned at me. Chloe's always been like this. It's not like you just met her today. Looking at him, my mind drifted. Scenes from the past 3 years flashed before my eyes. The first time, Ethan went completely off the grid for a month. No calls, no texts. I was so worried I almost called the police. Until he finally rolled a giant cake out of a hotel suite. A room full of his friends held up their phones, recording my tear-stained face. In the group chat, the bet was called. How many hours until Hazel cries her eyes out? The second time, they put a drunk Ethan and Chloe in the same bed. When I pushed the door open, Chloe was half naked, wrapped tightly in his arms. I stared at them in utter disbelief, tears streaming down my face. But Ethan only laughed, his shoulders shaking. It's fake, babe. Just a photo shoot. We just wanted to see if you'd get jealous. Chloe slapped Ethan's back playfully. Look how scared Hazel is. I've seen Ethan naked since we were kids. I would never actually want him. The third time was Chloe's pregnancy test. I didn't sleep a single wink that night. But Ethan just flipped the paper over to show me the back. It read, prank successful. I was crying so hard I could barely breathe. Ethan wiped my tears, pulling me into a hug as he laughed. How are you so gullible? And Chloe was squatting next to us, laughing so hard she couldn't stand straight. Hazel, you really need to work on your emotional stability. Until 30 minutes ago, when I picked up the wrong phone. 3 years of chat logs, every single message, laid bare before me. Are we betting $2,000 again? I bet she cries in 10 minutes. Ethan bet 5 minutes. Don't underestimate Hazel. Last time with the fake car accident, she held out for 11 minutes before crying. I think Hazel is getting stronger. We need to make the next one more extreme. Every single moment of my agony, every night I stayed awake crying, had a betting rate attached to it. And the person who always placed the highest bet was Ethan. I grabbed my purse to leave. Tyler was still laughing. Hazel, stop acting. Ethan didn't even take it seriously. I stopped in my tracks. But I am serious. Ethan, we are over. I walked out of the venue and immediately texted my brother, who was currently abroad. Liam, I want to come home. He replied instantly. I'm booking a flight to get you right now. Staring at those words, my eyes suddenly welled up. 3 years ago, to be with Ethan, I had a massive blowout with my family. Dad smashed his glass, and Mom cried, asking if he was really worth it. Liam stood by, silent and angry. Back then, I held Ethan's hand tightly and said, he is. I moved out of my family's house and never went back. Over the years, no matter how much hurt I swallowed, I never told my parents. I was terrified they would ask if I regretted it. I was even more terrified to admit that the girl who had walked away without looking back had made the worst mistake of her life. At 1 a.m., I was stuffing my last sweater into my suitcase. Suddenly, the front door burst open. Ethan was back. Chloe followed close behind him. Seeing the suitcase at my feet, she blinked. Oh, come on, Hazel. Are you seriously leaving? I ignored her. She rolled her eyes. It's not even a big deal. When we were kids, we threw Ethan into the pool naked and he didn't even care. And this bastard locked me in a men's bathroom for half an hour once. I still grabbed drinks with him right after. I looked up at her. That's between you two. Chloe choked on her words, her expression tightening into a frown. Fine, I won't get involved in a couple's fight. But I have to say one thing for Ethan. She patted Ethan's shoulder. He might be a jerk who loves to play games, but if he didn't love you, why would he waste so much time pranking you? I suddenly laughed. So in their world, cruelty was just another form of affection. Ethan pressed his hand down on my suitcase lid. Where do you think you're going? Haven't you thrown enough of a tantrum? I couldn't even look at him. It has nothing to do with you, Ethan. We broke up. His eyes flared with anger. He reached into my bag and snatched my passport. I scrambled to grab it back. Ethan. But Ethan held it high above his head. You get this back when you calm down. Chloe sighed from the side. Ugh, Ethan, this is getting pathetic. If she wants to leave, just let her go. She'll crawl back by tomorrow afternoon anyway. I know girls like Hazel. They act tough, but they fold easily. I looked at her coldly. You know me. Chloe blinked. We've known each other for 3 years, of course I do. Don't you always do this? First you cry, then you get mad, then you give him the silent treatment. In the end, Ethan buys you a designer bag and everything is fine. My heart sank into a cold abyss. To them, my dignity and my pain were nothing but a strategy to get a designer bag. I pulled out my phone. Give me my passport, or I'm calling the cops. Ethan's face darkened instantly. Hazel, you're threatening me with the police now? I stared straight into his eyes. Don't you love seeing me panic? Let's see who panics when the cops get here. His jaw clenched. He threw the passport onto the table. I bent down and slid it back into my purse. Just then, Chloe mumbled under her breath. It's just a relationship. Why act like you're some royalty? It's not like those photos of yours were even that. I snapped my head up. What photos? Chloe shut her mouth instantly. Ethan's face changed too. He remained silent for a moment before speaking. The ones you sent me before. My blood ran cold. During our 3 years together, I had indeed sent him some intimate photos. They weren't explicit, but they were definitely meant for his eyes only. Why has she seen them? Chloe spoke up first. You mean the ones on Ethan's phone? Yeah, I saw a few. Oh please, it's not like you have anything I don't. Who cares? She waved her hand dismissively. We used to compete to see who had the most embarrassing photos on our phones. I've gone through Ethan's camera roll a million times. It's totally normal that your photos got mixed up in there. My hands and feet went numb. That is my privacy. Ethan rubbed his temples. She didn't do it on purpose, Hazel. In that exact moment, I finally understood. The scariest part was never that they didn't understand boundaries. It was that every time they crossed the line, they had a perfect excuse to tell me to get over it. Because they were best friends. Because it was just a joke. Everyone did it. So any discomfort I felt was always twisted into me being dramatic. I held my hand out to Ethan. Give me your phone. Delete them. He stared at me for a few seconds before finally handing it over. I quickly deleted every single one of them. Chloe sighed again. Seriously? Nobody even cares. I didn't reply. I dragged my suitcase and walked toward the door. As I passed Ethan, he spoke in a low, cold voice. Hazel, if you walk out that door today, don't expect me to come begging. I didn't stop. I'm counting on it. The door clicked shut behind me. Inside, I heard the loud crash of something being violently smashed. At 10 a.m. the next day, I went to the private lounge Ethan always frequented to get my laptop. I had left in such a rush last night that my work files were still in his car. Tyler had texted saying he left it at the lounge for me to pick up. When I arrived, Chloe was sitting on the sofa, playing cards with Tyler. Seeing me, she threw her cards onto the table. Oh, look who's back. The punching bag has returned. I thought you were actually leaving. I ignored her completely. I'm just here for my laptop. Tyler pointed to a glass of sparkling water on the table. The usual rule, Hazel. Drink it, then you can have your laptop. I turned to leave, but Ethan walked out from the back room. Hazel. Chloe chimed in from the side. Come on, Ethan. You can't even handle her. She grabbed the sparkling water and took a big gulp herself. Then she refilled the glass and shoved it into my hand. See? Not poisoned. Drink up and we'll call it even. I stared at the glass. What did you guys put in it? Chloe laughed. Oh wow, she's actually getting smarter. Tyler had already pulled out his phone. Chloe slapped her knee. Quick, start the timer. I bet she takes 8 minutes to find her medicine. The faint smell of seafood hit my nose, and my face went pale. Is there seafood in this? Chloe laughed even harder. Just a tiny bit of shrimp paste. Last time you claimed you could smell it from a mile away. I didn't believe you. Ethan bet 5 minutes, by the way. My body went cold. Chloe, I have a severe seafood allergy. She answered as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. I know. Doesn't Ethan have your EpiPen? If you really feel sick, we'll give it to you. My chest began to tighten. I scrambled to search my bag. My backup EpiPen was gone. I looked up. Ethan was standing there, twirling my EpiPen between his fingers. I rushed toward him to grab it. Give it to me. He pushed me back, looking down at his phone timer. 20 more seconds. My breathing became incredibly shallow and rapid. Ethan, I can't breathe. He was actually still smiling. Didn't the doctor say you have a reaction window before it gets actually dangerous? I lunged forward to snatch it, but Chloe stepped in between us. I shoved her out of the way with all my strength. As she stumbled backward, she hit the corner of the table, knocking a glass to the floor. It shattered with a loud pop, a shard slicing across the back of her hand. Chloe's face went white instantly. Fuck. My hand. The smile wiped off Ethan's face in a second. He violently shoved me aside. My lower back slammed hard against the coffee table. My vision went black for a second. Chloe looked down at her bleeding hand, gasping in pain. Shit, it's really deep. God, it hurts. The room erupted into chaos. Some grabbed tissues, others scrambled for the first aid kit, while someone called the nearest clinic. I was on my knees a few feet away, my throat feeling like it was being squeezed shut. Every gasp of air sent a searing pain through my chest. I had to drag myself toward Ethan. My fingers finally caught the hem of his jeans. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. My pen. Ethan finally realized something was wrong. He quickly knelt down. Is it really this bad? I couldn't answer anymore. Just before my consciousness slipped away completely, the EpiPen was finally slammed into my thigh. When I woke up, I was lying in an emergency room. A nurse was changing my foredrip. A few minutes later, and you would have been gone. With an allergy that severe, how could anyone play a joke like that? I opened my mouth, but my throat was too raw to make a sound. My phone buzzed. It was an Instagram post from Chloe. She had a few stitches on her hand, and Ethan was standing beside her, holding her medicine. Her caption read, "Today was a total nightmare." Underneath, their group chat friends were leaving comments. Did Hazel really push you? The punching bag has a real attitude today. Don't play with seafood next time, guys. That was a close call. The words on the screen blurred together. My chest felt incredibly heavy. I had almost died right in front of them. Yet because Chloe got a tiny scratch on her hand, everyone rushed to her side, including Ethan. To him, my life wasn't even worth a scratch on Chloe's skin. Tears splashed onto the screen. I wiped them away, but they just kept coming. That afternoon, I received a photo in the group chat. It was taken in the hallway of the lounge. Dozens of printed sheets of paper were scattered all over the floor. I took one look, and my brain went completely numb. They were the private photos I had sent to Ethan. The person who posted the picture was Tyler. Who knew? Hazel looks so innocent, but she's actually wild. A few seconds later, Chloe sent a text. Fuck Tyler. Wrong group chat. My hands shook violently as I typed. You shared my private photos without my consent. That is illegal. Chloe sent a voice note. Hazel, seriously, get over yourself. We used to share naked photos of Ethan in the group chat all the time, and he never complained. They're just a few pajama photos. Is it really worth throwing a fit? Listening to her voice, I let out a hollow laugh. Since you think it's not a big deal, let's see if the police agree with you. She replied instantly. Fine, fine. You're the educated one. You know the law. You are so high maintenance. When you two get married, do we have to submit an application just to hang out with him? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I dialed 911. Right after I hung up, Ethan called. Did you seriously call the police? Chloe just got her stitches. Do you have to make such a big scene today? I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles turned white. She leaked my private photos, and now I'm the one making a scene? His tone was incredibly aggressive. We gathered all the papers back. What more do you want? I couldn't suppress my rage. But people saw them. He snapped back. So what if they did? The line fell dead silent. My tears finally spilled over. I had always thought that even if the whole world treated me like a joke, Ethan would at least protect me when it truly mattered. But he wouldn't. I hung up. Half an hour later, he sent me an address. The hard drive with your photos is at the studio on the west side. If you want to delete them all, come get it yourself. By the time I arrived, The sun had already set. Chloe sat on the edge of a table, her hand wrapped in thick gauze, swinging her legs in irritation. Ethan looked at me, his voice deep and stern. Apologize to Chloe first. You're the reason she got hurt. I thought I had misheard him. Ethan, I almost died today. A flicker of guilt crossed his eyes, but he quickly looked away. But you're fine now, aren't you? Chloe frowned. Whatever, Ethan. I don't care about an apology. I'm just pissed she called the cops. She looked at me, completely self-righteous. When Mason pushed me into the pool back then, I just kicked him back when I got out. Who calls the cops over stuff like this? I couldn't help but laugh. So you leak my photos, and I'm just supposed to take it? Chloe ran a hand through her hair, frustrated. I already told you it was a joke. Why do you have to take everything so seriously? Before I could speak, heavy footsteps echoed from the dark corners of the studio. 3 men wearing baseball caps walked out. I instinctively took a step back. But Ethan blocked the door. Don't worry. Just teaching you a little lesson so you'll remember. He looked at the 3 men. 10 minutes. Just scare her until she admits she's wrong. Don't actually hurt her. My blood ran cold. Ethan, are you insane? He snatched my phone from my hand, ignoring my cries. The 3 men stepped closer. One of them grabbed my wrist. The last shred of hope in my heart died. During the struggle, I kicked over a light stand. The glass bulb shattered loudly on the floor. Chloe tried to dodge, but her injured hand slammed right into the sharp shards. She let out a piercing shriek. Fuck. Ethan. Ethan's face went pale. He immediately rushed over and scooped her up in his arms. I panicked completely. Ethan. Don't leave me. He paused for a second. Chloe screamed in pain. What are you standing there for? Take me to the hospital. Ethan looked back at me, then at the men. Stick to the plan. Let her go after 10 minutes. With that, he carried Chloe out. The heavy studio door slammed shut. Silence enveloped the room. The man closest to me suddenly turned and locked the door. The rich kid is gone. Why are we still acting? Cold sweat broke out across my back. Whatever he paid you, I'll double it. They sneered, ignoring my offer. One of them grabbed my jacket, ripping it open. The sound of tearing fabric made my mind go completely blank. I fought wildly, but my wrists were pinned down. Get off me. I managed to kick one of them, but a heavy slap landed across my face. My ears rang, and I collapsed to the ground. They pinned my arms and legs, laughing mockingly as they tore at my clothes. I looked at the locked door in absolute despair, a metallic taste filling my mouth. Asterisk, Ethan, didn't you say it was just a joke? Asterisk. Mom. Dad. I'm sorry. I don't think I can come home. Asterisk. Just as I was about to bite my tongue to end it, a loud crash echoed from the entrance. Hazel. Before I could see who it was, darkness dragged me under. On the other side of town, Chloe had just finished getting her hand treated again, cursing the whole time. Am I cursed today or what? First she shoves me, and then I get stabbed by glass. Ethan sat next to her, completely distracted. He checked his watch. It had been 40 minutes. Ethan dialed the studio manager's number, but nobody answered. For some reason, a heavy dread settled deep in his chest. Just as he couldn't sit still any longer and stood up to leave, the hospital TV cut in with a local news alert. A massive fire broke out at 9:40 p.m. at an abandoned photo studio on the west side. Firefighters are currently battling the flames. The screen cut to the live feed. Giant orange flames lit up the night sky. Ethan's phone slipped from his hand, clattering onto the floor. The Maybach screeched to a halt against the curb, its tires smoking against the asphalt. Ethan kicked the car door open before the engine had even died. The night sky above the industrial district was stained an apocalyptic, violent orange. Thick, oily black smoke billowed from the roof of the warehouse studio, blotting out the stars. 5 fire trucks were parked in a defensive semicircle, their sirens wailing with deafening intensity as high-pressure water hoses blasted the roaring inferno. Hazel! Ethan screamed, lunging past the police barricade. A burly police officer caught him by the collar of his designer jacket, slamming him backward against the hood of a squad car. Back off, kid. The whole structure is collapsing. There's an active structural burn inside. My girlfriend is in there. Ethan roared, his eyes bulging, veins standing out like cords on his neck. She's locked inside. You don't understand. I locked the door from the outside. Get her out. Chloe stumbled out of the passenger side of the Maybach, clutching her freshly bandaged hand to her chest. Her eyes darted nervously between the blazing inferno and the assembled crowd of onlookers. Ethan, calm down. Chloe yelled over the roar of the fire, grabbing his arm. She probably isn't even in there. Hazel's dramatic, remember? She probably slipped out the back door and set the fire herself just to scare you. She's trying to win the bet. Ethan turned around and looked at Chloe. For 3 years, he had found her voice cute, her casual cruelty refreshing, her endless jokes entertaining. But in this exact second, looking at her glossy, lips and her pristine, self-absorbed face while 50-foot flames consumed the building where he had left Hazel pinned to the floor by 3 violent criminals. A wave of sickening, murderous rage washed over him. "Shut up," Ethan whispered. Chloe blinked, taken aback. "What?" I said, "Shut your fucking mouth," Ethan bellowed, shoving Chloe away with such force that she lost her footing on the wet gravel, scraping her knees as she fell to the ground. "Ethan!" Chloe shrieked in disbelief, tears of humiliation springing to her eyes. "You pushed me. My hand is still bleeding." Ethan didn't look at her. He didn't care. He fell to his knees in the puddle of soot-stained water, clutching his head in his hands, watching as the central roof timber of the studio gave way with a thunderous, explosive crash, sending a fountain of sparks 300 feet into the air. 20 minutes later, the fire captain walked over to the barricade, his yellow helmet blackened with ash, his oxygen mask hanging loose around his neck. "Did you find her?" Ethan choked out, crawling toward the captain on his hands and knees, grabbing the man's waterproof turnout pants with trembling, soot-stained fingers. "Did you find a girl? Dark hair, about 5'6", wearing a beige trench coat?" The fire captain looked down at him with grim, exhausted eyes. "The building was completely gutted, son. The rear half suffered an electrical explosion from an industrial transformer. We found blood on the floor near the main entrance, signs of a violent struggle, and this." The captain held up a clear plastic evidence bag. Inside was the charred, melted remnant of Hazel's plastic phone case, and a torn piece of beige wool from her coat, soaked in dark crimson blood. "There were no bodies inside the main room," the captain added. "The rear security door was breached with hydraulic tools from the outside before the fire reached the front. Someone dragged people out, but given the amount of blood on the concrete, you need to speak with the homicide detectives." Ethan stared at the plastic bag. The air vanished from his lungs. His vision blurred, the edges turning pitch black. He fell forward, his forehead slamming against the cold, wet pavement, and let out a broken, agonizing wail that was swallowed whole by the howling sirens. The scent of sterile antiseptic and fresh white lilies filled the private penthouse suite on the 32nd floor of the St. Jude Medical Pavilion. I opened my eyes. The ceiling above me was not the cracked, dirty plaster of the studio. It was polished cedar wood, softly illuminated by warm, recessed lighting, and 4 line ran into the back of my left hand, pumping fluids and potent anti-inflammatories into my bloodstream. My face ached from the slap, and my wrists were wrapped in soft medical gauze, but my clothes had been replaced with clean silk pajamas. "Hazel." A deep, trembling voice spoke from the bedside armchair. I turned my head slowly. A tall, broad-shouldered man in a bespoke charcoal gray 3-piece suit sat beside me. His tie was undone, his dark hair disheveled, his jaw tight with suppressed lethal fury. His knuckles were bruised, the skin split across his right hand where he had personally broken the jaw of the man who had laid hands on me. "Liam. My older brother. Liam." My voice was a dry, raspy whistle. Liam leaned forward, taking my uninjured hand in both of his, pressing his forehead against my knuckles. His massive shoulders shook as a single, silent tear fell onto the linen sheets. "I'm here, baby sister," Liam whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. "I got you. You're safe. The private jet landed at 9:15. My team tracked your phone's last ping to the studio. We breached the back doors at 9:38. The fire. My men neutralized the 3 thugs and extracted you before the transformer blew," Liam said coldly, lifting his head. His dark eyes burned with an icy, terrifying calm. "Those 3 animals are currently in the custody of our private security division in an underground facility. They've already sung like canaries. They gave us the contract, the cash transfer records, and the text messages from Ethan Vance." The door to the suite opened softly. My parents stepped into the room. My father, Arthur Sterling, the reclusive chairman of the Sterling Global conglomerate, a man whose industrial empire spanned logistics, deep sea shipping, and international banking, looked as though he had aged 10 years in 3 hours. Beside him, my mother, Eleanor, rushed to the bed, gathering me into a fierce, weeping embrace, burying her face in my hair. "My sweet girl," Mom sobbed, kissing my forehead over and over. "My poor baby. Look what they did to you. Look what they did to my daughter." Dad stood at the foot of the bed. His hands rested on the silver handle of his walking cane, his knuckles white. 3 years, Hazel," Dad said, his baritone voice shaking with a mixture of heartbreak and ironclad resolve. "You gave up your name, your trust fund, and your family for that boy. You wanted to prove to us that love didn't need a pedigree, and he treated my daughter like an animal in a fighting pit." Tears spilled from my eyes, hot and bitter against my mother's silk blouse. "Dad, Mom." I choked out, the 3 years of swallowed humiliation silent, crying in dark bedrooms, an endless self-doubt finally bursting out of my chest. I was wrong. I was so stupid. I thought if I was patient enough, if I took the jokes, he would love me. I almost died today, Dad. He timed my allergy attack on a stopwatch. The temperature in the room plummeted to sub-zero. Arthur Sterling's eyes narrowed into two slits of diamond-hard steel. No more running, Hazel, Dad said softly. The Sterling name is not a burden. You need to hide. It is the shield that will crush every person who dared to make your pain a game. Liam stood up, pulling a sleek titanium tablet from his briefcase, setting it on my lap. The Vance family's logistics firm relies on our marine shipping routes for 85% of their freight capacity, Liam stated with clinical precision. Chloe's father's architectural firm has 12 active commercial permits pending approval from our municipal trust. Tyler's family fund is leveraged 4-to-1 against our commercial paper. Liam looked at me, his eyes dark with purpose. We can destroy them legally, financially, and socially by sunrise, Hazel. But the call is yours. How do you want to play this? I looked down at the tablet. I swiped through the digital dossiers, the bank statements, the group chat, archives where my agony had been monetized for 3 years. I touched the gauze on my bruised cheek. Then I looked up at my father and brother, and for the first time in 3 years, the fragile, timid girl who took the jokes vanished completely. Don't kill them in the dark, I said, my voice cold, steady, and sharp as a surgeon's scalpel. Tomorrow night is the Vance Group's annual charity gala at the Grand Plaza Hotel. They think I'm dead, or broken in a gutter. I looked my brother dead in the eye. I want to attend the party. For 24 hours, Ethan Vance lived in a waking nightmare. He sat in the dark living room of his luxury downtown loft, surrounded by empty bourbon bottles and overflowing ashtrays. The blinds were drawn tight, sealing out the daylight. On the glass coffee table in front of him sat Hazel's old belongings, a knitted scarf she had made for his birthday 2 years ago, a Polaroid of them at the beach where she was smiling brightly while he looked at his phone, and the backup EpiPen he had twirled between his fingers while she choked on the floor. His phone sat on the table, buzzing incessantly. The group chat was in full meltdown. Tyler, bro, is it true? Did the studio actually burn down? Where is Hazel? Marcus. The cops questioned me this morning about the photo leaks. They're saying it's a felony cyber harassment charge. Chloe. Ethan, pick up your phone. My dad is freaking out. The city just froze our commercial construction permits for no reason. Ethan, talk to me. Ethan didn't type a single word. He opened the group chat history, scrolling back 3 years. March 14th. I bet $500 Hazel cries in 5 minutes when I tell her I lost my job. July 22nd. Let's leave her at the rest stop on the highway without a wallet. Timer starts now. November 3rd. Chloe, wear my shirt and answer the door when she brings dinner. Let's see her face. Every single message. Every single bet. Every laughing emoji. He had thought it was funny. He had convinced himself that it was just his way of keeping her on her toes, of testing her devotion, of proving that she would never leave him no matter how cruel he was. He had weaponized her unconditional love, turned her loyalty into a spectator sport, and handed the tickets to a room full of sycophants. And now she was gone, burned to ash in a filthy studio because he had walked away to bandage a scratch on Chloe's finger. The front door opened. Chloe walked in without knocking, wearing a black cocktail dress, her hair styled for the evening gala. Her face was pale, her expression tight with frantic anxiety. Ethan, what are you doing sitting in the dark? Chloe demanded, marching over and ripping the blinds open. The charity gala starts in 2 hours. Your father said every major investor in the state is going to be there. We need to present a united front. Ethan blinked against the harsh sunlight, looking at Chloe with bloodshot, dead eyes. Hazel is dead, Chloe, Ethan whispered, his voice hollow. The police found blood. They found her coat. Chloe scoffed, waving her manicured hand dismissively. Oh please, you don't know that. Even if she is, it was an accident. The thugs went rogue, and the wiring was faulty. You can't blame yourself for that. She sat beside him on the sofa, placing her hand on his knee, leaning in with a sweet, coaxing smile. Ethan, look at me. It's over now. The drama, the crying, the constant walking on eggshells around her. It's done. Tonight, we can finally announce our relationship to the board. We belong together. We always have. Ethan looked down at Chloe's hand on his knee. He saw the tiny white bandage on her finger. The scratch. The insignificant, superficial scratch that had cost Hazel her life. He remembered Hazel on her knees on the floor of the lounge, her lips turning blue, dragging herself across the carpet, begging him for her medicine while he looked at a stopwatch. 20 more seconds. A wave of violent, suffocating revulsion tore through Ethan's gut. He grabbed Chloe's wrist and twisted it with brutal, unforgiving force, throwing her off the couch. Ethan. What the fuck? Chloe screamed, crashing against the coffee table, scattering the glass ashtrays across the rug. Get out of my house, Ethan snarled, standing over her like a feral animal, his teeth bared, his eyes wild with pure hatred. If you ever speak her name again, I will kill you myself. Chloe stared at him from the floor, trembling in genuine naked terror. He scrambled to her feet and fled out the door, her heels clicking frantically down the corridor. Ethan collapsed back onto the sofa, buried his face in Hazel's knitted scarf, and wept until he had no tears left to shed. The grand ballroom of the Grand Plaza Hotel was bathed in the warm, golden glow of 20 crystal chandeliers. Over 600 of the city's elite, hedge fund managers, real estate tycoons, politicians, and socialites mingled over vintage champagne and caviar. At the center of the room, Ethan's father, Robert Vance, was sweating beneath his tuxedo collar, frantically trying to corner banking executives. Arthur Sterling's conglomerate has initiated a hostile liquidity freeze on 3 of our primary subsidiaries, Robert whispered to his wife. If we don't secure an emergency capital injection tonight from the Sterling family representative, Vance Logistics will declare bankruptcy by Friday. Ethan stood 5 paces away, wearing a black tuxedo, looking like a walking corpse. He held a glass of scotch, his gaze vacant, staring at the floor. Tyler and the rest of the group chat friends huddled in the corner, whispering nervously, constantly checking their phones as news of corporate freezes and police inquiries began to spread through their families. Chloe arrived 30 minutes late, wearing a designer emerald gown, plastering a fake, radiant smile on her face as she glided toward Ethan's side. Ethan, darling, Chloe purred, reaching to link her arm through his. Let's go. Greet the board members. Step away from me, Chloe, Ethan said, his voice completely flat, not even bothering to look at her. Before Chloe could reply, the heavy double doors at the back of the ballroom swung open with a booming resonance that silenced the entire hall. The master of ceremonies stepped up to the podium, his voice echoing through the concert-grade sound system. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairman of the Sterling Global Conglomerate, Mr. Arthur Sterling, Mrs. Eleanor Sterling, Chief Executive Officer Mr. Liam Sterling, and the sole heiress to the Sterling dynasty, Miss Hazel Sterling. The room collectively held its breath. Every head turned in unison toward the entrance. Down the center red carpet walked Arthur and Eleanor Sterling, exuding an untouchable, majestic authority that commanded the entire state's economy. Beside them walked Liam Sterling, sharp, lethal, and imposing. And walking between them was me. I wore a custom off-the-shoulder gown of midnight blue velvet, hand-embroidered, with thousands of diamond shards that shimmered like a constellation with every step I took. Around my neck was the Star of the North, a flawless 40-carat sapphire necklace worth $40 million. My dark hair fell in glossy, Hollywood waves over my bare shoulders. My makeup was bold, flawless, radiating an icy, untouchable elegance. There were no tears on my cheeks, no fear in my eyes. I looked like a queen who had arrived to claim the heads of traitors. Ethan's scotch glass slipped from his fingers, shattering across the polished parquet floor in an explosion of amber liquid and crystal shards. Hazel. Ethan choked out, his voice cracking into a dry, agonizing whisper. Chloe's jaw dropped so wide her face turned translucent. No, that's impossible. Hazel is an orphan. She was broke. She worked at a design firm for $4,000 a month. The entire ballroom erupted into a frenzy of hushed whispers and clicking cameras. Hazel Sterling? The reclusive daughter of Arthur Sterling who went abroad 3 years ago. That's the girl Ethan Vance was dating? My God, the Vance family had the Sterling heiress in their hands, and they treated her like a nobody. I walked straight down the center aisle, my heels clicking with the steady, measured rhythm of an executioner's march. Robert Vance, Ethan's father, practically tripped over his own feet as he rushed forward, bowing frantically, his hands trembling. Chairman Sterling. Miss Sterling. What an extraordinary honor. We had no idea. Ethan, you fool. Why didn't you tell us you were courting the Sterling heiress? Arthur Sterling didn't even look at Robert Vance. He simply raised his hand. The room's ambient chandeliers abruptly dimmed to absolute darkness. The 70-foot LED presentation screens flanking the main stage, originally prepared to display the Vance Group's corporate achievements, flickered to life. With blinding brightness, a high-pitched digital chime pierced the sound system. The Snapchat group chat, titled The Hazel Betting Pool, appeared on the 70-foot displays in crystal clear, high-resolution 4K. The chat logs began to scroll automatically before the eyes of 600 high society guests. Ethan Vance. I bet $5,000 she cries within 3 minutes of the fake car crash. Chloe Miller. I bet $2,000 she drinks the sparkling water with shrimp paste. Timer starts now. Tyler Davis. Check out these private photos of Hazel in her bedroom. Who knew the prude had a wild side? A collective, horrified gasp ripped through the room. Socialites covered their mouths in disgust. Corporate board members turned to glare at Ethan and Tyler with blistering contempt. Then the screen shifted to high-definition security footage. The first clip showed Ethan holding my EpiPen between his fingers, smiling at a stopwatch while I collapsed on the carpet, gasping for breath, my face turning blue. The second clip showed the dark photo studio. Ethan instructing the three thugs to teach her a lesson, locking the heavy steel door from the outside and walking away while Chloe whined about a scratch on her finger. The third clip was the audio recording from the federal interrogation room. The three thugs confessing in detail that Ethan Vance had paid them $50,000 to stage an aggravated assault and false imprisonment. The ballroom descended into utter, apocalyptic chaos. Turn it off! Turn it off! Robert Vance screamed, grabbing his chest, his face turning purple with rage and terror. Ethan, what have you done? What have you done to our family? Chloe was hyperventilating, backing away toward the exit, tears of pure terror. Ruining hair makeup. It was just a joke. We were just playing games. It wasn't real. A joke, Miss Miller? Liam Sterling stepped onto the stage, holding a thick leather binder. Federal marshals and officers from the Major Crimes Division are waiting in the lobby. Liam's voice boomed through the microphone, cold as liquid nitrogen. Warrants have been issued for Chloe Miller and Tyler Davis for felony distribution of non-consensual intimate imagery, reckless endangerment with a lethal allergen, and conspiracy to commit aggravated assault. The grand double doors of the ballroom burst open. A dozen armed federal agents and uniformed police officers marched down the aisle, their steel handcuffs gleaming under the stage lights. Tyler Davis? Chloe Miller? The lead federal marshal announced. You are under arrest. Hands behind your backs. Tyler fell to his knees on the floor, weeping and babbling incoherently as officers pinned his arms and clicked the cold steel around his wrists. Chloe shrieked, thrashing wildly, her emerald dress tearing against the side table as two female officers handcuffed her. Ethan, save me, Chloe screamed, looking at Ethan with frantic, bulging eyes. Tell them it was your idea. Tell them you told me to put the shrimp paste in the water. Ethan. Ethan didn't look at her. He didn't move a single muscle to defend her. His eyes were locked solely onto me as I stood beside my father and brother, bathed in the brilliant glow of the stage lights. He took 3 stumbling steps toward me, his knees shaking, his face completely drenched in sweat and tears. Hazel. Ethan choked out, his voice cracking into raw, bloody pieces. Hazel, you're alive. Thank God you're alive. He dropped to both knees right in front of my Louboutin heels, slamming his forehead against the floorboards. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Hazel. Ethan sobbed, his broad shoulders heaving with uncontrollable agony. I was an idiot. I was blind. I let them push me into those stupid games. I swear on my life, I loved you. Every time I made a bet, it was because I wanted to see how much you cared about me. I wanted you to need me. He reached out a trembling hand, trying to touch the hem of my midnight blue gown. Give me one more chance, Hazel, please. Punish me. Take all our family's assets. Put me in prison. Just tell me you don't hate me. Tell me you remember our 3 years. I looked down at the man kneeling at my feet. 3 years ago, I would have given my life to hear him say he loved me. 2 years ago, I would have cried tears of joy if he had knelt before me like this. Even yesterday morning, a part of my broken heart was still bleeding for him. Now, looking at him sobbing in the dirt, surrounded by the ruins of his pride, I felt only a vast, infinite emptiness. I stepped back 2 paces, pulling the hem of my gown away from his reach, letting his fingers grasp only empty air. Ethan, I said, my voice carrying across the silent ballroom with the crystalline clarity of a winter bell. Ethan looked up, his bloodshot eyes filled with a desperate, dying glimmer of hope. Hazel. For 3 years you placed bets on my tears, I said softly, looking directly into his ruined soul. You bet $500 on my grief. You bet $2,000 on my dignity. You bet 5 minutes on my life. I tilted my chin up, radiating an untouchable, majestic sovereignty. Today, Ethan Vance, I placed a bet of my own. I looked down at the federal marshals approaching behind him. I bet you spend the next 12 years in federal prison watching the clock tick. And unlike you, I never lose. The lead marshal stepped forward, placing a heavy hand on Ethan's shoulder, clicking the steel shackles around his wrists. Ethan Vance, you are under arrest for attempted second-degree murder, solicitation of aggravated kidnapping, and corporate fraud. Hazel. No. Hazel. Ethan screamed, thrashing against the officers as they hauled him upright, dragging him backward down the red carpet. Don't leave me. I love you. Hazel. His desperate, agonizing wails echoed down the grand marble hallway, growing fainter and fainter until the heavy oak doors slammed shut, cutting off his voice forever. 6 months later, the high-profile federal trial of the state versus Vance, Miller, and Davis concluded with absolute, crushing finality. The overwhelming digital evidence, the forensic records from the hospital, the audio logs, and the direct testimony of the 3 hired thugs left the defense with zero room to maneuver. The judge looked down from the bench with blistering disgust. In my 30 years on the bench, I have rarely witnessed a more calculated, depraved campaign of domestic cruelty disguised as juvenile amusement. You weaponized human vulnerability, physical infirmity, and sacred trust for sport. The sentences were handed down without mercy. Chloe Miller was sentenced to 7 years at the Northern Maximum Security Correctional Facility for Women for aggravated cyber harassment, felony evidence, tampering, and reckless endangerment with a deadly substance. Tyler Davis was sentenced to 5 years for distribution of non-consensual, intimate imagery and commercial extortion. Ethan Vance was sentenced to 11 years at the United States Penitentiary, Pollock, without possibility of parole for the first 8 years. Following the criminal convictions, the civil lawsuits filed by the Sterling Global Legal Division completely dismantled the Vance and Miller family fortunes. Vance Logistics declared Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Their shipping vessels were auctioned off to pay federal fines and restitution. Robert Vance was forced to sell his luxury estate and live in a modest suburban rental, his family name permanently erased from high society. Chloe's father's firm collapsed within 30 days, leaving Chloe destitute in prison, scrubbing cafeteria floors in an orange jumpsuit, abandoned by every high society friend who had once cheered for her cruel jokes. In his solitary cell in Louisiana, Ethan Vance sat on the edge of his iron cot, staring at the concrete wall. He had no visitors. Every night at 10 p.m., when the prison lights switched off, the silence of the cell would ring in his ears like a physical alarm. In the dark, he would close his eyes, and his mind would involuntarily begin to count. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. He would see Hazel's face, not the broken, weeping girl he had tortured, but the breathtaking, radiant queen in midnight blue velvet who had looked at him with absolute indifference. He would count to 45 seconds, the time it took her to say yes to his fake proposal. Then he would bury his face in his rough prison blanket and scream into the darkness until his throat bled, trapped forever in a prison where the clock would never stop ticking. 1 year later, the morning sun over the Pacific coast broke through the coastal fog, casting long, golden ribbons of light across the private terrace of the Sterling estate. In Malibu, the air was sweet with the scent of blooming jasmine, sea salt, and fresh morning espresso. I stood by the glass railing, holding a warm porcelain cup of coffee, wearing a tailored cream linen blazer and wide-leg trousers. The morning breeze blew my dark hair gently across my shoulders. Behind me, the patio table was covered with architectural blueprints and international grant applications for the Hazel Sterling Foundation for Domestic Recovery, a $50 million philanthropic initiative providing legal defense, safe housing, and career rehabilitation for victims of psychological and domestic abuse. My phone chimed on the table. It was an email notification from the Foundation's legal director. Subject: Quarterly Status Report. The 3rd Regional Shelter in Chicago has reached full operational capacity. 42 women were successfully relocated into independent housing this month. All operations proceeding smoothly. I looked at the email, a soft, genuine smile touching my lips. Liam walked onto the terrace, holding 2 fresh croissants from the kitchen, tossing one onto a small plate beside me with a warm, brotherly grin. Big board meeting at 11, Madam Chairwoman, Liam teased, leaning against the railing beside me, looking out at the glittering blue waves below. The European logistics merger needs your final signature. I'll be ready in 5 minutes, I replied, taking a sip of the warm, rich coffee. Liam looked at me, his eyes filled with quiet, profound pride. You look happy, Hayes. Truly happy. I looked out at the vast, boundless horizon where the blue sky met the infinite. See, there were no stopwatches here. There were no fake proposals. There were no bets placed on my tears. I had walked through the fire, shed the ashes of my past, and reclaimed the crown that had always belonged to me. I smiled, took a deep breath of the clean ocean wind, and stepped forward into the brilliant, unshadowed light of my own life.